cul-de-sac. Good morning, everyone. Let's begin with the word prayer. I'll leave it. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, thank Thee for these assembled here today to do the work of Jefferson County. Dear Lord, there's so much happening in our country, our world, and even in our community. Dear Lord, there are many, many individual needs and requests, unspoken requests. Dear Lord, if you will dig deep into the hearts of those who truly need it, dear Lord, and touch their hearts with your healing grace. Dear Lord, give us the strength and the courage to do the things in thy will and in thy name. Dear Lord, thank you for the ability to sit and to discuss the problems of our county, the problems of our cities, and giving us the ability to remedy those that we can. Dear Lord, give us peace and an understanding to continue your good work in your name. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Good morning, October the 18th. Committee. Let's begin with number 1.
Mr. President, for Public Works, Community Services, and Intergovernmental Relations, we have a total of 4 items this morning. 1 is switching, dealing with Shays Valley Conference Room and audio visual equipment upgrade. Number 2, we have the geological survey for FY 2023. We have the asphalt testing and inspection certification. Number 4 is industrial safety and training services. Do we have any questions from any commissioner regarding those 4 items?
1 through 4.
All right, seeing we have one other thing. It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor let it be known by saying aye. We have 2 businesses as it relates to District 1. Is community grant for WJ Christian K-3 School 1 and 2. All right. It's been moved and properly seconded. Thank you, commissioners. All those in favor let it be known by saying aye. That's all that we have for District 1.
We have the coroner's office up.
Move item 1.
Second.
I'll let you vote. It was the old contract expired, so it was a bid, and now this is the new contract for maintenance of the X-ray equipment.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you, what do you do with the X-ray machine?
Well, we use it in 2 main ways. One is we can take an X-ray just like you would on a living person and see how the heart and lungs look, or look for broken bones in traffic accidents. Also, if someone's been shot or even stabbed, we use it to find where bullets, or if there's a broken piece of knife, so that we can recover those pieces.
Okay. All right. I just want to know.
Sure.
The first, all in favor, say aye. Okay, we have Dr. Hamilton.
Good morning, Commissioner. Items 1 through 31, with the exception of number 3, for the senior citizen centers for operational cost of $15,000.
You need to read them all.
All right, so.
I'm at 1 through 31.
Yeah, I was about to say, all right.
With the exception of 3.
Yeah, number 3 is actually for the amendment number 1 for the Kimberly Senior Citizen Center. We took bids on this project and they came in over bid, and through some amendments we have to add some funds. And so we wanted to extend the timeframe of October 20th, 2023, and $7,013 for the consultant to do the work that's needed to be done during the bidding phase. And then,
Dr. Hamilton, but you do want us to take an action on it.
Yes, we do.
Right? Yes, fine, so then we can include number three.
Well, and I have a question.
Okay.
What were the bids, and what was the target where everybody was over bid?
I have to get back to you on the budget amount, but it came in significantly over our budget.
Okay.
And
This has been about a year now.
that's right, that was one of the issues, and that has to do with the supply chain, which is having construction bids that are coming in way over our budget, not just on this project.
Well, if we could communicate that to them.
They know, we did mention it to the city. Yes, sir.
Did you say you already moved?
Yes, 1-31.
Second?
Okay, moving second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm moving these grants.
Moving right on, so,
There's still one more.
Oh, did you have one more?
That's actually the item of the workforce is actually.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, got that.
Yes, sir. This is a Department of Justice Veterans Treatment Court grant. This is a pass-through grant to UAB for substance abuse treatment for veterans in the amount of $1,521,000.
Move that. Second.
It's been purchased, second, all in favor, say aye.
Hold on, Madam Commissioner. Kat, I think that this is an excellent item that Helen needs to make sure that she puts out there to the public.
Next door down by the substation.
Yeah, it's about 85%.
So I knew it, I saw it was,
It's getting close.
it was getting close.
Yes, sir.
When do we have a completion date?
It's gonna probably be a few more months. I mean,
A few more months.
yes, sir.
You know, we got storms that can get on.
Yes, sir. We're working as fast as we can.
Okay, I have, 5 community grants.
Yeah, move items 1 to 5.
I'll second, but I wanna add 1,000 to item 3.
Hold on, now we're gonna add, to this, we have this amount of, yeah, number 3, Madam Chair, if you put 1,500 on, 1 to add to that, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're trying to show you.
Hold on, let me make sure. This is number 5. Let me make sure.
Yeah, you're not on there. Make it.
No, I'm sorry, Madam, for the record, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, it's item number, when I saw veterans, that's what it was. Excuse me, item number 5, we'd like to add 1,500 to that, you can also add some money there too.
Oh, wait a minute, what is that?
Mr. Joe.
I added you 1,500, so you added 1,500 to 3 and 5?
No, for the
That's what
record,
you said.
for the record,
Okay, 2,000.
I am recanting, I'm rescinding
And then give her.
what I was saying for number 3, and I am appropriating for number 5, $1,500. Now, the lawyer and the clerk is sitting there looking at it. I rescind it. You got it? Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I reaffirm my 1,000 commitment.
Okay.
Well, you can also add $1,000 to number 5 too.
What you can add to if you go to.
I did add.
If you go 25.
Huh? You gonna go 25? You gonna add some money?
Okay, we have 3 adjustments.
Yeah.
For item 3, we're adding $1,000, which will take it up to 3,000. Item 4, it would take it up to 11,500. Item 5, it would take it up to $3,500.
We did item 4. We added to item 4, the scales. Okay, I agree.
So what, babe?
No, Jenny, President Stevens added to that.
Okay. What'd you add to number 4?
No.
He said 1,500.
$1,500.
You ain't gonna be outdone. Right.
It's first and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. End of my report.
Let's flip over to number 4. Joe, you go ahead.
All right, we have general services, finance, Ms. Dixon.
Good morning.
Have a motion?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Very good report. All right, budget management.
Under budget management, we have 2 items for EMA related to hazmat reimbursement for $6,010.62. And then there's a carry forward grant for $24,263.66. Any questions?
I'll move the item.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Multiple staff development. Do I have any questions? Do I have a motion?
Move the item.
Second. Motion, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Developmental services, Mr. Morrison.
Well, yes, sir, good morning. What you have before you today are 2 requests for conditional use permits. I do want to start off, just briefly, we are going to have that reconsideration zoning case on the hearing for Thursday.
Yes.
I didn't know if you all wanted to go over that or not. I brought the slides in case you have any questions.
Which one is that?
This one is the RISE application that was down at the corner of Shannon, Winona, and Shannon. Right.
You got one, go?
I would think that Charles would need to set it in the reconsideration to, have a good understanding of it.
Is that the one that, it was,
Good.
Senior side living area.
Right.
Citizens came back and said.
Did they report?
Yeah.
This is what I said, they had the dam in front of it.
Correct.
this is where you and I think approved and.
Yeah.
And down, so
Right.
they were being on the prevailing side, they were requesting reconsideration. Okay.
Yes, and again, just briefly, planning and zoning commission recommended additions for minimum 15-foot landscape buffer along the western side. They restricted, one of the conditions is to restrict the age as they plan on doing. The directional lighting to the outdoor, or directional lighting in the outdoor lighting. And they did include a covenant dealing with the dam itself, that a right of entry and maintenance agreement be made to the adjacent property owner for maintaining the dam. And then lastly, they did want the development to commence with substantial conformance to the site plan submitted at their July meeting. Staff recommendation is to change that particular covenant to reflect the site plans that we approved tomorrow. And again, this, because there are some differences, and I don't want anything to get hung up legally. All right?
Do I have a motion?
Move the item.
Second.
Please say aye.
Aye.
All right, first request is for the, see, they've got the Azure Tower first, which is the next one, Johnny. This one is located out in the rural areas of Azure. And as you can see, the coverage map that's shown on your screen right there shows the absence of any sort of cell phone coverage in this site. And the next slide will show what it will look like with the coverage, that will provide some sort of interior coverage as well as in-vehicle for passers-by. This is in a very remote area that meets all the zoning setbacks and requirements.
So moved. Second. Have a motion second, all in favor, please say aye.
All right, the next request is for a tower that's located off of Block 17 Road out in the Gilmore area. And this one is for a 250-foot tower. The unique situation here is that there is actually another cell tower that is close by, it's within 500 feet. But the height that they would have to locate their co-location antenna would provide the same range of service that they're trying to cover as far as getting over towards the next intersection, which is Budford Road. And so that's why they made a request to construct the additional tower here. We've got some slides that show the difference between what it would be 165 feet, that's what they call it. And that's what it is now, because there is no service for this particular area. If you go one more slide, Tony, the other direction. That's at 165 feet. The next one is what they would do at 250 feet. You see there's a substantial difference. And the next slide will show you the areas that would be covered in addition to if it were at the 250 feet as opposed to 165. So you can see that there's a lot more coverage that would be provided if they were located at or had constructed in town. Sir?
Have they received FAA clearance on this?
Oh, yes, sir. They have all that before they even start.
All right. Two towers, do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
I do want to, those aren't going to be public hearings, and we did send notice out to all property owners within the set setbacks.
I had a couple calls yesterday, in favor of it. So I guess that's cell service is needed out there.
Yes, sir.
General services. Trish, are you on?
Yeah, I am. Good morning, Commissioners. General Services has one contract. It's with the Birmingham Museum of Art. It's a license agreement for the use of the Jefferson County deck for parkers who volunteer at the Birmingham Museum of Art.
Is there a cost or revenues involved, or is it just work at guys?
No, sir, there is no cost. This is something we've done over the years, just never had a written agreement.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion second, all in favor, please say aye. All right, we have our, thank you, Trish. We have our treasurer here, and we have before us, the resolution that, designate the depository for the treasurer's office, in accordance with the Code of Alabama. And do I have any questions, or do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, I have two grants, that I would like to,
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
I have a resolution in support of Amendment 2 and Amendment 7, from the ACCA, that, one is for broadband, and one is for economic development. All in favor, please say aye. I do have one other question. The issue of state games has arisen again. They have been requesting $50,000 from Jefferson County Commission in support of the games, which will be held in June 2023, state games. That's for the youth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Second.
So
So that's each of us doing 10.
that would, whatever our pleasure is.
No, we can take it out of the phone. I was just about to say.
We can get that out of commission support, can't we?
Funding's supposed to be determined by Thursday, and we can go ahead and move on.
Do it as a whole, as opposed to individual. Okay.
Source
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
Identify.
Find us some money. All in favor, please say aye. All right, thank you. That concludes my report.
What's going on with that? Yeah. Administrative and Infrastructure Committee, Roads and Transportation.
We had several items on the agenda. The first was a travel study with the MPO to look at possible alignments for a Gardendale-Fultondale connector. The next was a deed of exchange to correct an issue that we had with a legal description on a right-of-way deed. The next is our on-call in place asphalt services, and then we had 3 more right-of-way acquisitions.
I'm with 1, 2, 6.
All in favor, say aye. I'll approve. County attorney has a personal injury claim and a sewer claim, and a resolution to approve a sewer damage claim. Minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You say 1, 2, 4?
He did.
Right.
Or can we get a little?
Yeah. Watch the center designated for.
Was the law requires that in order for a facility to be designated a treatment place for mental disease, it has to be approved by the county commission. This is approving the location sheriff's office is set up to open where they're going to have the remote mental health facility where they can evaluate people on the road and then place them there if they need mental health assistance versus taking them to jail. And that designation has to be done by the commission.
Is this the one that was designated by the governor? Or
Right.
Given permission?
Given by the governor, but it has to be done by.
Right,
the
right.
commission. It has to be designated.
JPS is.
That's up
So
there.
that Homewood Police, that Marcus was located.
Sheriff, any item? I see Wayne.
I'm here.
Do you want
I was here to address the Crisis Care Center. Construction's done, next week, so there's gonna be all three, we'll invite all of y'all. The ribbon cutting should happen in December, but they're gonna be ready to start taking patients sometime in probably early December.
that'd be great.
All right.
Do we have an opportunity to walk through without being held?
That's it. I think so, Commissioner.
Hey, I need to make a clarification. In the backup on the banks that were approving, this is the substitute, and that's what we just passed out, so this is what we'll adopt. Is that what you have, Ms.? Okay, this is clear enough. Thank you, sir.
All right. Bring it back.
I just want to thank you all for allowing us to send out 2 surveys. We send out a customer service survey to companies that do business with the county, whether it's a business license or a permit. And we also send out y'all's approval and employee survey where we figure out how to make it a better place to work and a better way to serve y'all and the citizens. So we appreciate y'all investing in that with us. Look forward to getting those results and trying to get better.
They are anonymous.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
Did our staff get it?
Yes.
Did you get one?
I did.
Well,
So, let me ask you,
Did you get one?
we can talk about it more offline, but, I would be interested in knowing, I mean, we don't have a day of operation, we want you to do, handle that. I'm just interested in knowing, how those surveys, we understand the confidentiality of it, but what's the, about how things are addressed by them, you know, in an expeditious manner. It seems that we have some issues, but, you know, again, excuse me, yeah.
We'll definitely be following up with, look forward to it.
I reserve that from you and I speak. I just wanted to be, you know, properly addressed.
Update on and mini retreat.
Yes, sir, we're trying to schedule a time with y'all to share the information on the last quarter of the strategic plan. And then set y'all a meeting with the legislature and a few other things y'all got coming. So we'll be in touch very soon on those things, requesting dates from you all.
Actually looking for a date and a venue to meet with our new legislators. No business to be transacted in this, just a meet and greet and get to have that relationship that we've had. The only thing that we would probably do is do the source and use of funds that we have, that legislative packet where we have the pie charts that we give the legislators for them to look at. That would be the only business we would do, and then come out the 1st of January, since the session is going in later on, and look at our legislative agenda when we have a chance to make sure that we're all on the same page and that's it.
Mr. President, but I will also say that before we have that meeting, because we recognize that we are a body of one, even though we are a partisan elected body. I'd like to see some of the things that Commissioner Tyson and I would like to see addressed in our districts, that we have a comprehensive approach in terms of when we're meeting with these legislators, that we have an agenda. And when I say agenda, I know that it's, we're meeting to fellowship, but we do have representatives in terms of lobbyists that work for us, and we need to make sure that they understand that there's something as simple as Cal picking up the trash, in these unincorporated areas that we have issues with. He can't enforce anything that deals with dumping. That's something minor that you can take responsibility. So I'm not asking for permission as much as I'm making sure that we just need to work toward having a collective agenda, because it just seems to me, especially since I have been here, that we haven't had an agenda where all of us are talking on the same sheet of music. And I don't speak for Commissioner Tyson, but I'm speaking for myself. Okay, so I'm clear on what I want to see. If nobody else want to see it, I don't believe you pay a lobbyist, but yet by the same token, you don't have a collective agenda. I mean, we have to start walking through some of this stuff. And it's something as simple as that, picking up trash.
Please, if you find that a little bit better for me,
Yeah.
because you're saying picking up trash, you're talking about county.
Excuse
people
me,
picking
hold
up
on. Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. Especially being that we have media here, let me articulate what I'm saying. If we can't enforce our right of ways, being, that folk who desire to, litter on county right of ways, right? That we have sole control over. For example, Docene, some of these other unincorporated areas, we don't even have a dumping resolution that we can pass that allows us to enforce anyone that does dumping in our communities. Docene is not too far from where you are.
I think we have that.
No, we didn't. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up.
Please.
We don't. Well, that's not what we have, so.
But one of the things that I think is important for us in this section is to look at both our dumping and our zoning laws as they exist. So while we have some enforcement measures, they have been in effect since I think the 1960s. So they are not as effective as they should be. So I think that's definitely one of the things I agree with you, that needs to be beefed up some. So what we have is not much.
And I will tell you this, and I'll give you, for example, discharging of a firearm, right? I know that we have some areas that, cattle and livestock and all of that is permitted on their properties. But if you take Forestdale and you discharge a firearm, how does the sheriff enforce when there's no law for him to enforce? In other words, you can discharge a firearm at any given moment in a residential community. And I brought that up to our lobbyists, but I'm also saying to us as a body that if you have the discharging of a firearm in a residential community, and we don't have any kind of way that we can enforce that, because we don't have ordinances, we're a creature of the state. That's another example. And there's some economic development things for small businesses that we need to revisit too, but the gist of it all is just making sure that we come together and have an agenda that all five of us can stand behind and lobby for on our own behalf. Make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to have a get together where we know our legislators.
Yeah.
And have a better understanding and be able to craft our agenda moving forward and present that unified agenda after we meet together and have one of these this mini session we talked about. I think that will be So we've got it, we just need, if we can communicate it a little bit better. And I think that's one of our main problems and concerns is we're not communicating what we do. We're all trying to do the right thing. So we all have great, intention. We just don't communicate it right. I'm just as guilty as everyone else, so.
And getting state dollars for senior citizens and, children that's disabled, like United Ability. It's a great need. I seen a study that was given to me with children, with birth that's coming through the system, and there's nowhere for them to go, even in the school system. And there's no programs really set up, and over state laws that come down. And it's all the way from newborn all the way up to kids that's adults that turns 18. Once they turn 19, they're actually cut off, where it's really nothing for kids that's born with birth defects and become adults. United Ability is struggling bad over there, and I have had to help a lot. But I know it's state dollars that we can get if we lobby for them, and our senior citizens are being neglected and left alone. And it's money there in the state, but we don't ask for it. We are not lobbying for it. I want to get more money into senior services. I want to get more money into kids that's born that's disabled. And it's federal dollars. I actually did the research on that, and we can get it from the state. They got it over there, but if we don't request it.
We do have a couple of places that do, for people who, after they come out of high school,
It's still, the need is overwhelming.
Exceptional Foundation,
Right.
in this place. I mean, I agree, I'm all for it.
You know,
I call them kids, but they don't
They're
think they
not.
call them kids, they
No.
ain't no kids.
Cause they're grown, they're actually adults, and it's a waiting list of like 500 and 600.
Spaces already.
Yeah, that these kids just at home, and I'm talking about, just look, if we just do a survey through all of Jefferson County, the numbers would be greater than 500 and 600. You know, she said that they have stopped even taking people on the list because the numbers have gotten so high. So what we gonna do with them? I wanna see something, I wanna see us do something. They deserve to go to outings, even when they had World Games. They got them together and we went to World Games. I really enjoyed myself with them. I had a good time. You know,
Right there, so appreciative.
yeah.
That is a good subject that we should have in the legislature.
All right, oh,
Let me ask this too, Mr. President. I know we discussed it, and if this is not part-time, I got a question that relates to the state games. I know we've already reviewed identifying the funding source, but because there is another item on the agenda that we've also looked at, I just had a question about it. So if you want me to wait,
no matter, it's fine, go ahead.
Okay. So when we say the state games, clarify that a little bit more when we're talking about that particular program.
Well, Commissioner Knight has most of that information.
But it seems like you have some historical.
Yeah, this is,
There it is.
this is the foundation, Alabama State Games. The state games is traced back to Baron Pittenger, who served on 2 different occasions as the director of the United States Olympic Committee. He saw the competitive advantage of countries like China and Russia who train their athletes in almost military style. Pittenger had a vision for a national system where athletes at a young age would be introduced to and compete in Olympic style competition. He wanted to begin state organizations with games, with sports that would introduce the traditions and customs of the International Olympic Games. From this concept, the state games were born. In 1982, he chose the state of Alabama to be one of the first states to organize and implement the state games program. Ron Creel, a successful businessman in the river region held in Birmingham more than any other city. The ASF Foundation was formed to operate state games as well as other programs designed to encourage academic excellence, leadership skills, good citizenship, and healthy practices. It's one of the 2 longest consistently running state games in America.
You have to give me a moment. Let me tell you
And
why.
here's a list of where they've been.
No, the reason why.
That's true.
And I probably do.
That's for you.
That's for you to grown up.
Youth.
I thought it was all ages,
I thought it was all,
but there's also Alabama.
yeah, it's Alabama.
It's different than the one I'm seeing.
It's my understanding
So those are 2 different.
these are the youth.
So, Mr. President, that's a question that I have. I know that Commissioner Tyson and I, with the Magic City Classic is coming up, and since this seems to be something similar, almost in nature, and the life of the Magic City Classic has been longer, I would like for us to see at some point about that being in the budget as opposed to us having to give out of our individual district funds. And just because of not so much of the just the notoriety of it, but because of the revenue that it generates for the county, not just for city of Birmingham, it generates for the county. So that's what was in my mind when I said that, because I would think that between the 2 of us, we've done $150,000. It'd be very prudent if we look at it from an economic development perspective, and whatever that needs to be, but it's similar in nature to what has been presented. So just wanted to bring that up, Mr. President, that I'd like for us to reconsider our perspective of that game that does a lot. Matter of fact, the World Games was said to do certain things in hospitality, but I can tell you that the hotels right now in Birmingham and in parts of Jefferson County are already sold out for next weekend. Are any of you all aware of that? Might want to check that out. They are sold out. They're consistently sold out. So it gets to be one of those things that I think, because it is a revenue generator, that we need to change our perspective of not what kind of game it is, but the revenue that it generates during the time that it's heated. And I know because I had to check into something and realize that most of the hotels have already been booked for months up, and including our own Sheraton and Westin. And
All the way to Montgomery.
yeah, and so I just say to us as a body, if we could look at that when we're looking at other things, I think that would be well suited, as opposed to us trying to do it out of our own district funds. And then, of course, when it's publicized, it has to be stated that it's coming from the commission. So we just like for it to come from the commission, as opposed to us having to finance it on our own. Yeah, and aren't you an alumni? You're an alumni of what? Which one? A&M? Yeah, anybody else alumni?
I'm what you call a double bulldog.
Well, see, I want you to be a dog.
That's the reason that I am so hard to get along with.
No, but you.
Is that I am a double bulldog, and I can growl from both sides.
Well, that's fine. I know that there's an underlying tonality there, but I get that point. And since you're such a double bulldog, then double down and get in that budget and let's get somebody from the game. Go bulldog.
I tell you what,
Matter of fact, Graham won too. That's why he made me laugh.
Now getting double deep.
yeah, that's getting double deep.
Commissioner Stevens, I want you to look at the, when we did the legislation about, they had, funding that came from the state. It was called, weatherization money for veterans. It lasted, probably about 4 years. Came from the state, it lasted about 4 years. And it was like in the early, like 13, 14, 15, 16. and it came from the state. And I would like for us to look into that again, getting that, and it covered veterans,
What was it called?
weatherization funding. And it's been, I've been ran out of it, didn't send any more. But the state can get it, and I would like to see that.
Commissioners, I've got one more thing.
I think y'all had one other.
Yeah.
Item. I just wanted to point out Victor Roads and Transit, did a great job of getting the rebuilding county signs designed and printed, and got some of them up and more of them up, going up each day, and they look really good. I want y'all to see that on your way out today.
We want them everywhere.
We don't have a
We
lot.
want the road work every year, all southern part of the county.
See that, Lee?
No, how about, let this guy, you did it before. No, we thought we Again, I just skipped, I got 1, 2, 4, and now 5.
All right, information technology, Shreya, you on?
Good morning, Commissioners. We have one item for your consideration and approval. It's a 3-year renewal contract for Catapult for providing the Microsoft support services.
Pull that.
Or catapult.
Yes, sir.
Not catapult. No catapult, I need to borrow it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, I
Move
have,
items 1, 2, 3.
thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I have just an update on 2, talking about legislative agendas. 2 of us met with DBA yesterday, in a large group, to talk about the upcoming legislative sessions or legislative agendas, not only for local, state, but federal agendas that will go to the Public Policy Committee for approval for the next year. And I'll share that once that's finalized and done up.
What's, give us a high level subject.
High level, it would be everything from EV vehicles, the Northern Belt Line, which is not only local but federal. What else?
That was one we there talking about,
Brownfield was big.
and, daycare for, mothers.
That's right, with working with women's fund. Also, looking at infrastructure, and how can that be supported locally and federally. And there was one other that
It
was.
was a ride share, and it's talking about transportation has increased to 1,000 people per day now, the Jefferson Transit.
With the Birmingham Express, that's continuing to grow. It's only been up 3 weeks now. They're sure going to get more dollars. But once that's all finalized.
What did you say about more dollars for what, transportation?
For transit.
For Birmingham, transit, right?
Right, when it's going to the state, getting state and federal dollars. We're one of the only states in the nation that does not get transportation money from the state.
Yeah, but Commissioner Tyson and I, there will be no bus rapid transit if we had approved that years ago on the council. As a matter of fact, if you dig more deeper into it, you'll find that it did have federal funding that was provided through Congresswoman Sewell's office. And we took those dollars, and then Birmingham had to match it. It was a grant match.
Right.
And it's just now rolling out, but that was there when we approved that.
Well, hopefully they'll be good at talking to the state, and there's more specifics, and there's language. The language is very specific in what they're looking at, and so I'll share all that with you once that's finalized and we get a copy. Daryl Perkins is ran the meeting. He will be the chief lobbyist for the with DVA.
And we need to talk about this, about railroads too, blocking these entryways. I had to go around 3 blocks in order to get to work today. because it's been sitting on the track since Friday.
And there's been
And I called and called and called and called. It's just, ooh, it make you so angry. I was so mad this
you know what,
morning.
you know what railroad was?
It was CSX in northern, right.
I gave you ladies in
I done already called her, me and her had got to arguing this morning, she better be glad she went in my face.
So, with that being said, let me ask this question. Who's our federal lobbyist? Is that Boston Bean? Is that Michael Davis? Okay, because, again, that's a collective effort that I think that we need to have a discussion with people that the commission pays to do the job. And in addition to that, we need to make sure that we are talking to, as you said, your new state folk. I think that we need to make a concerted effort to talk to the federal folk about our own plight. I mean, you'll have Ms. Britt up there soon as your senator, and then you got other folk. And I think that it would behoove
Why
us
you
as a body to
smiling,
go there.
Jimmy? You should say that way. I was
actually smiling, that little lady there beside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
She looked up at me.
Yeah, but Jimmy knows that what I'm saying is
I do
correct.
hear what you're talking about, collective lobbying. I'm listening every word you say.
Yeah. Now, I'm not talking about the lobbyists, so I don't want to get caught up into that. But what I'm saying is that the dollars that we have that we could actually gather, I think that we would be best suited to be our own champions to advocate for those things that we know. Yeah, because when you start talking about anything that's dealing with railway, any form of transportation, you're gonna go back to economic development. So it would behoove us to make sure that as we are transitioning federally and statewide, that we have I'm looking forward to this upcoming session being more formidable for us, because it seems as though we meet, we fellowship, but I'm not, unless there's something going on counter-turning that maybe I'm unaware of, and just doesn't seem like we are kind of moving like we the large county.
I'll share when I get the final copy of that lobbying information.
Yeah.
I'll share it because I think there are some things that we need to attach to the Northern Beltline, things you guys are working on. That's something that's super important that we need to be able to, full press on. The other one is, and I forgot, was growing Alabama tax credits, which has a cap of like 17,500 now, either expanding that cap or removing the cap. And so that's good items. My other item is we're heading down to meet with Dr. Harris today with the Alabama Department of Health. I think this is one of the last people that we need to speak with on the ambulance issue, and hopefully the next work session we have, we'll be able to kind of lay out a three-tiered plan that we think is good. And we've talked to a ton of folks. I'll give just a brief. Want everybody to know that we're still, this is something that we've worked on diligently, but there were some gaps in the Fitch report that we had to work on. We talked to every fire chief in the county, Jefferson County Department of Health, all of our for-profit ambulances, Global Medical Response, which does a nurse navigator that can help from 911, healthcare services, all of our local two-year colleges with Lawson and Jeff State, Jefferson County Workforce Development, and today we'll finalize with Alabama Department of Health, and hopefully have some good solutions that we can take next steps on that will require multi-years of commission support for not only some of our municipalities, but some of our mainly our unincorporated parts of Jefferson County. And that is my report.
That sounds great. As we're going to finalize our committee meeting today, I've got an update on our amphitheater project. perhaps go over just a little bit to let everyone understand where we are in the sequence of events that are occurring.
Mr. President, you
Commissioners,
said that this is our project, the SAR is our project too?
it can be. You know, when you say our project, you're taking one word out of a sentence, and it's not necessarily our project.
No.
But we could be a participant in the amphitheater project with proper commission vote. And there is, if you just rest just a second, I'll be happy to show you and explain this to you and see where we are.
The reason why I asked, Mr. President, I mean, none of us got anything not started. So if you say it's our project, then obviously I'm
It is not our project.
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. I woke up with you. We ain't falling out, but I'm gonna listen to it because just as I told Commissioner Hammonds a long time ago, once I realized that you had no for real minority participation in it, I questioned the project from the beginning. And so I'm listening. I don't care about the politics of the matter. I'm just saying that, you know, they're just some questions that I have, so I'm listening.
All right, the project before everyone is the ability for City of Birmingham and Jefferson County to receive the amphitheater that currently exists in Shelby County. The entire operation would move to a site north of the Protective Stadium. It's owned by the, would be owned by the BJCC Center. It would be an 8,500 or 9,000 seat capacity amphitheater. Owner would be the BJCC. It would be managed by Live Nation, who manages it now. The anticipated cost would be $50 million. Live Nation will close its Oak Mountain Amphitheater and move to the Greater Birmingham Amphitheater. The borrowing, it would require a $30 million loan for a period of 30 years. Estimated debt service is going to be a little over $2 million a year now. There is a proposed funding source that would require no additional dollars from any outside source prior or after an initial investment to be determined by all participating parties. When I say all participating parties, if this commission so chooses, it would be partnering with Birmingham, the BJCC, and Live Nation to create this. The first step is a funding agreement between the CVB and the BJCC. Without that in place, everything else would be and is moot. There is no appetite, I don't think, on the commission to do any type of funding for an amphitheater besides perhaps an initial investment up front that would be handled out of our Economic Development Fund, which I talked to Steve a year ago, Steve, maybe, that was really no commitment and still is no commitment. So in order for this to take place, the CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau, would have to go back and revisit an agreement that they had with the BJCC that dated back to 2003. In 2003, the CVB needed operating funds, and through a contractual agreement, the BJCC relinquished the pilots, which is payments in lieu of taxes that were generated at the Sheraton Hotel. The Westin Hotel did not exist at that time. Those were approximately $176,000. Over the course of the years, of course, that has grown, and you can see that in your packet. What the BJCC is attempting to do is to reclaim those pilots from the Sheraton Hotel and the Westin Hotel. Just those two hotels that is on the BJCC campus. And utilize those funds to fund the shortfall in debt service payments for the amphitheater. The amphitheater will be a standalone project with the addition of these pilots from the BJCC campus funds. Pilots would be generated from the operation of the amphitheater and from the Westin and from the Sheraton Hotel. They would come into existence if indeed the amphitheater were to be built. It will require an agreement by BJCC, Live Nation, City, and County to make an upfront contribution. That's a requisite. So if this commission chooses not to participate, you have an out. It will not happen. There's been no consideration up to that point. An agreement by the BJCC to use the pilots received by the BJC with respect to the operation of the amphitheater. Another agreement. A management operating agreement with Live Nation. And the CVB and BJC understand and acknowledge that as of this date, there is no binding obligation on the part of the city, the county, Live Nation, or any other party for the development of the amphitheater project. BJCC has requested that CVB enter into an agreement in order to induce a set of binding development agreements with other parties for successful financing and development of the amphitheater project. However, CVB and BJC understand that this agreement will not become effective until the date at which the amphitheater bonds are issued. Now that is really all of this has to be done in sequence. You have to have willing partners. Right now you have City of Birmingham, you have Live Nation, you have BJCC, and you have City of Birmingham. City of Birmingham, Live Nation, BJCC, and the county have all tentatively agreed that if an agreement were to come out, that we would place it before the legislative body for the contribution of upfront funds. Only after these pilots are designated and dedicated to this one particular project. There cannot be any project without everyone participating. CVB is a vital and important role to get this done. And I did not mention that, the state will give a $3 million upfront, bridge to go to the CDB to help, alleviate some of this initial shortfall that they would indeed have. The act is here. The funding agreement, it's so fluid. This is the latest one that I have. But I think that the economic impact of the concerts and entertainment is in your first packet. It can tell you what it is. There are 2 hotels that are online. One is supposed to break ground within 24 months. It's a 100 to 150 room hotel. The funding gap is in your packet. The BJCC CVB partnership is in your packet. And if you want to go to the summary on the back page of the Star Uptown, it will tell you that kind of where we are in the sequence of events. The first thing that has to happen is that the CVB meets Monday. I think they met yesterday, didn't they, Josh? They met yesterday and worked on it. And if they can come to a resolution, I think the project can proceed. If they can't come to a resolution, I can't see it going any further. So, because right now, some of the wording that was in the original development agreement, I did some strike throughs on it, and I said that this commission would never back that. I think that it's important to know that none of our attorneys have seen any of this and given any input into it. So what we're looking at now is a concept to bring Shelby County jobs to Jefferson County, to bring hotels from Shelby County to Jefferson County, and to have about 170,000 new visitors coming into an area, and to continue the revitalization that the Protective Stadium has done. And I think it pretty much speaks for itself, the value that it's given to the community.
Mr. President.
So, with that being said, I'll answer any questions that I have enough knowledge to do.
What is the ask of the county?
The ask of the county is $5 million.
$5 million, period? $5 million over.
Okay.
Let me clarify this. I appreciate you bringing this to the attention of the
What?
Commission.
Can you let me finish? Okay, I want that. So you saying, $5 million ask, right?
Right.
So, Mr. President, out of respect for the body, certain displeasures I won't display, but I will tell you, I'm learning more as co-chair of the Economic Development Committee than I've heard, period. And Mr. President, I almost find it insulting that you went to one member, but you didn't have a collective conversation that should have took place. Because I'm going to share with you what I shared with the chairman of that committee. For the record, Live Nation bought Red Mountain Entertainment. I only do this for a living. That's why I know that there's no minority participation in it. And I asked that question, which is not on you, okay? But I asked this question from the very beginning because when you know who the players are, then you understand the bigger picture, okay? And the point that I'm saying is we're in the midst of trying to refinance sewer debt, and we're talking about giving away money to another project. I don't understand that. And I also feel as though there have been some things that, as a body, that we're left out of, that now we're asked to consider. I am clearly aware that Red Mountain Entertainment is the same entity that also has the amphitheater down there in Tuscaloosa. That's why I'm asking about who's in it. Because if Live Nation is coming to the table, i.e. formerly Red Mountain Entertainment, which I know them very well, them closing shop in Oak Mountain benefited them. And so if we're talking about all the parties being brought together and one can't move without the other, don't know if Commissioner Tyson remember this, I'm trying to even see if she was on the council at the time. We went from having what the stadium, you know, like you said, for people who are putting out incorrect information. I was never against a stadium. I thought we were trying to build a dome stadium, which is the reason why the former president of this commission decided that when he got to, as in Langford, decided that when he got to the city, would raise the tax from 8 cents to 10 cents. And it was supposed to be to build a dome, not an open air stadium, okay? And now we're having all this talk about perhaps making the Magic City Classic go over to this open air stadium that has less than the city of Birmingham. So when people say different things, they don't understand. You're talking to a commissioner that has institutional knowledge of what took place over there at the city. And then if they want to verify, all you got to do is check the record, because I know what I voted on. So when we're talking about Westin Hotel, the building of Westin Hotel came from a $55 million bond that the city of Birmingham put up to build, okay? And I'm just trying to figure out where are our priorities. I mean, this thing has really blown my mind, and I can say more because, you know, my understanding, does Colonial Properties still own this property at this point? Mr. President? No, well, at one time it did, so I'm saying, are they the current owner now? Okay, well, but I mean, you know everything else, I don't understand why you don't know that.
No, I told you I'd answer any questions that I have knowledge of.
Okay.
To my knowledge, Colonial Properties is not involved at all.
Okay, well, Mr. President, this public knowledge, AL.com, when we were in the midst of COVID, when the city of Birmingham decided to give $13.1 million in incentives for this project, Colonial Properties is already involved. I'm trying not to call names, other than just to give the company name. So, or is it Corporate Realty? Yeah. Okay, so does Corporate Realty, I mean, we don't play on names, I don't care about that. Does Corporate Realty own it currently?
Corporate Realty currently.
Okay, so thank you for the correction, right? Because I'm gonna put the blame where it belongs. This is a business transaction, and I understand it. What I don't understand are our priorities at this stage, and what the county should be focused in on is what we're going to do to ensure specifically Districts 1 and 2 know that there's some reprieve for us to be able to help folks that once you build this project. I'm never against economic development. I'm against anything that doesn't appear to be thought through. And yet we're not looking at folks who are struggling already with water sewer bill. And at the end of the day, that's not what we're talking about. If other cities or municipalities choose to make other priorities their challenge, then that's on them. But for me, I just don't understand how we're going about this. And to hear this and to know that there's already a bill that's out there, you know, it sounds like to me the horse is already out the barn. It's just a matter of, you know, I'm sorry.
That's old.
Yeah, that was 2003.
I didn't know I was talking about this.
Well, I mean, it's obviously there's some talk within the legislative body concerning how this tax is going to be used. But the only thing that I am going to say that Mr. President, I would have preferred knowing before today about this. But in addition to that, I can only speak for myself, and I can articulate myself very well. Our priorities, to me, needs to be that financially, we need to stay focused on what the task is before us that citizens are going to ask us okay? And as it relates to, like I said, you got people in that community, because I do share a part over in that Norwood, community, that, they don't even know all the nuances about it. But I just understand that, this is very interesting, so I would wanna know, what is corporate realty gonna get out of the deal? Because it sounds like the BJCC is gonna become the rightful owner, which means that somebody's gonna have to make a poor purchase from corporate realty. I'd like to see what that's gonna look like. And, it's just, it's very interesting. The last thing I'll say is this: nobody is talking about how you're gonna control the traffic. I say that when you have folk in the entertainment district. For those of you all who haven't been around the classic environment, come down there and you will see. You barely can get around protected at the same time you have something going on at Legacy. At the same time, you got a lot of folk that's going on, down there in the entertainment district. And then you have to park blocks away, which will lead you up to the Star. But I'm trying to figure out how we're going to, I don't understand, where's the engineering in all of this? Somebody needs to be talking about how do you move the flow of traffic when all of this stuff is going on. But I digress. I'm only just going to say from what our priorities I thought we should be looking at.
May I speak?
I'm done.
All right, well, yeah, we're a little late getting this to the commission. This came as quite a surprise to the convention board. There was no pre-talk with the convention board. One of the lobbyists showed up with a request signed by Commissioner Stevens and the mayor saying, hey, we want y'all to give up your pilots. Pilots are payments in lieu of taxes. 6.5% lodging tax from the city of Birmingham, 1% of that dedicated to the Weston and Sheraton. It's not a lodging tax, but they call it a payment in lieu of that tax, but it's 1% of the room nights which go to the convention board for them to be able to continue to promote tourism and visitation to this county. That was the agreement in 2002 when this legislation came out about the pilots, payments in lieu of taxes. But the Convention Bureau realized it and made that agreement with the BJCC, saying, instead of the 1% tax, we'll pay you that equivalent for that. So they showed up and said, hey, we want that back so that we can do this amphitheater. We have to have that for the funding. The funding from that is $968,000 a year, averaging as of late. When it was COVID, it was $300,000 and $400,000. When it was first beginning, it was $300,000 or $400,000 because it was the Sheraton only before the Weston came on board. So that is the money that they're requesting that is turned back over to the BJCC. The tax is collected by the BJCC, and the BJCC pays the money to the convention board. Now the BJCC says, hey, we don't want to pay you anymore. We want that money so that we can pay the bond debt on the amphitheater. The amphitheater cost is $50 million. $20 million of that will be up front. And it was said that the county, the city, the BJCC, and Live Nation would each put in $5 million. It was a surprise to me at the time. But here's the thing. The bond payment will be paid from this pilot that the CBB was getting. That's $900,000, I think, a year. The bond payment will be $2.011 million per year. So the other money to pay that bond debt is going to come from the amphitheater proceeds. Now, Live Nation has given us some statistics that says this is what we project the income to be. And with those projections, it looks like, yeah, that's enough to cover the bond debt. Well, here's the question. All right, if that bond debt, if the amphitheater doesn't produce, say we have another pandemic, or say the economy goes into tank, people aren't driving. All right, if that money is not enough to cover that bond debt, then the county and the city are going to be responsible for making that payment.
Like the
Now-
World Game.
Now, the BJCC has said, no, we'll make that out, we'll make that payment out of our,
Yes,
operating.
he's telling you the BJC will make up for the shortfall.
if there is a shortfall. However, there is a provision in this contract that says this payment to Birmingham and Jefferson County, and I have no idea what the agreement is, but I've been told yesterday that it was 50-50. Payment to Birmingham and Jefferson County will be subordinate to the BJCC, all their other debt payments, what they have now and what they may have in the future. So now we have a subordinate, you know, we're last in line to get paid in case something fails. So now, the convention board had quite consternation when they said, okay, we're gonna come and we want 8% of your budget that you have each year. We want it. There is some talk about, well, can we do half of it? Can we do something? This $3 million that Mr. Stevens said, that's something that Lee Santel with tourism has told us he has $1 million to put toward the project. He's asking for $3 million. He has to check with the governor. I don't know as of yesterday if he's got that. Maybe we can use that to offset some of the payment from the CVB to pay the CVB yearly for 10 years. I don't know. I'm not against the amphitheater. I'm not against development of that area over there. But I was very adamant about and very worrisome about backstopping a $30 million debt on top of what we have to do is going back to the market on
And
what we have
Commissioner
to do.
Knight, I feel the same way. It was my suggestion in that meeting was to take the Jefferson County off of that guarantee.
Well, as of yesterday, it hasn't been taken off nothing. It just
I agree with him, Mr. President, but I said that in the beginning about, that was my concern, is that we shouldn't be doing any of that right about now, and we're talking about refinancing bond debt.
Well, there's really, you're talking about two different things.
No,
And actually, please look, I checked with our legal counsel, our bond attorney, and this has no influence at all on the sewer refund. And I think maybe perhaps, I don't know if you did this.
I called him yesterday and I haven't got an answer back yet.
Mr. President, one thing I do know from having been a council member, you two have been over here at the commission, but I do know as being a former council member, you get ready to go to the bond market, anything that you start talking about publicly that talks about how you're spending money, it does have a play on public perception of what we're trying to get accomplished. But I'm still saying, Mr. President, and folk can vote how they want. I question the priorities of this commission. And in addition to that, Mr. President, no one is talking about the infrastructure that's going to be required in order for this to make viability, make sense. I mean, you know, when you start talking about building out projects of this magnitude, you've got to start talking about some infrastructure. You currently don't have it. I wish someone would tell us how in the world do you get off an interstate coming from east to north downtown, and you getting off into a one extreme right, 2 lanes, and then you're on a 2-lane road. I mean, it's thoroughly congested down there, and nobody seems to care. So I don't. It's like we just grabbing at projects as opposed to really thinking this thing through. Because I'm gonna tell you, Mr. President, and we all have been down there. You know, the stadium can't pay for itself. An amphitheater can't pay for itself. And I don't care if you are Live Nation. I don't care if you get Beyonce, Jay-Z, and every country western act you want. They're not going to put a lot of money into a market that cannot facilitate a ticket price. You can't get these high dollar acts to come to anywhere that doesn't have the potential of them folks making their money back. Now, I don't care if Live Nation and whoever else get mad with me. They can call me. They know I know this. There's no way in the world that you can tell me that this is where our priority needs to be. You putting up $5 million today, but if we're not careful about certain language, and if we're not questioning the infrastructure of what does this look like when you actually want to see it be successful. We're not just a county that's got a dark hole that every time somebody come up with something, I mean, we just bailed out the World Games. And here we are on to another event. But yet we're talking less about Bundy, that we need to be talking about sewer. That equals to people. And the people are going to ask, where are your priorities? But again, like I said before, if you only have 8,500 seats for a $50 million amphitheater, okay? I'm telling you, you're not going to get these high dollar acts. I said that when I was on the council, and people thought she didn't know what she was talking about. That's fine. But at the end of the day, have you seen some of these high dollar acts outside of Garth Brooks that went over to protect it? Everything else there has not done what it needs to do. And it requires people buying tickets. And people got to know that they're coming to a safe venue, and that they're going to have adequate parking, and they're not going to have to pay a fortune to park. Okay? I mean, it seems like we're just not really, from a strategic perspective, we're just doing a bunch of stuff. But again, I'm going to let people vote however they want to, and I'm going to just keep talking about what I know. And I'm going to see how all of this stuff works successfully. Yet we're not doing what we need to do to ensure that our bonds are going to be in the people's interest.
Again, the first step is for the CVB. If the CVB votes this down, you can take this and put it in the trash can.
So
There's
But
certain
it just went
things.
about the wrong way, the way it was presented to the CDC. You know, that's my problem. Here's the
And
calculation.
and again, I had.
Here's the calculation.
Did they give money to the World Game?
Yes.
And then we give money to the World Game?
Yes.
But under the same thing. Now, see,
Here's the projection.
I'm not saying that I'm for this. But if you're gonna stand, you need to stand all the time. I didn't feel like we should have gave World Games no money just because of the sewer and all of that too. They should have got no money just like this shouldn't get no. If you feel that way. So I got an appointment in my office.
Here's the projection of the from the amphitheater. I was, from what I was understanding, it's a 9,500 seat amphitheater. They're projecting their revenue for 17 events over the course of a year. Tickets at $52.80 in order to make their minimum payment. Now, that's a pretty high prediction, but also the numbers that Live Nation put in the package. There's a big bold thing at the bottom that says, we don't guarantee these numbers. This is just an estimate. I mean, and it's hocus pocus to me.
They can't.
You say how many concerts per?
17. That's what they're basing their numbers on. I asked yesterday, what's the Live Nation history in Oak Mountain? How many concerts have they had over the last 4 or 5 years? Hopefully somebody will be able to.
Let me kind of my place on this. Before this was called the Star, it was called Northside Park. We worked on it diligently, and it came in two different buckets. One was the amphitheater, and one was Northside Park. And we did a lot of due diligence on every aspect of it. You know, it has three parking decks, which would be very helpful with parking issues. I did it on the infrastructure, getting to those parking decks, and then when you leave, you know, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. And I think we can talk about economic impact all day long, but the winner in this development is the city of Birmingham. With room nights or anything else, every bit of the room night goes towards BJCC and the CDB, right? We don't see a bit of it. And if our sales tax, we only have, that's not already earmarked for one thing or another, we get 0.33 of one of those pennies that goes to our general fund. So we're really talking about quality of life and an opportunity to expand that entertainment district. And what does that do for other aspects of it? I'm not necessarily against it. I think it'd be a good opportunity, but financially, I want to make sure that it makes sense. I want to make sure that we're not the backstop. If we do cash up front, then if we're the backstop,
I don't want to be back.
right. And I think there's a lot more information that has to come. You said it's the first round. I think there are a lot of what ifs and that we have to go through to make sure that it's. But I have concerns, but I also
Like back when you were having the Northside Park, there was talk about the funding of the, and I just recall looking at some old documents, the funding was that we were going to fund 2/3 and Birmingham was going to fund 1/3. And I think that was
different. This was going to be it was going to be a cooperative district, and there was going to be a co-op fee on the amphitheater.
Well, we're going to get asked when they develop the rest of it.
Well, here's the point though, commissioners, we have to be honest and say, they're already moving dirt. So whether we sitting here and talking or not talking to one another, someone's talking.
Well, they're
moving dirt.
Yeah,
they're not moving dirt.
Yeah, I promise you, this isn't going forward without a CDB. It's not.
This was the Northside Park side, not the.
No,
two different.
I get that, but Mr. President, I'm gonna leave this at that. Mr. President, I have institutional knowledge of what the city did in that whole entertainment district. I know what it is, I know what it's not, I know what the photo ops are about, I know that. But Mr. President, I'm no fool. The property owner is well aware that there are some transactions that are being had, and they're now being had amongst elected officials who got to close the deal. The deal been started years ago, okay? That's just the truth of it. But the thing that I'm saying is that I don't like it when we become divisive amongst ourselves in order to be able to essentially help what I perceive to be something that needs a lot more thought in it. Because if you don't have the infrastructure to properly support it. And in addition to that, I made mention to one of the other commissioners, people in this body have talked about the level of homicides that are happening in the county. Well, the truth of the matter is, the majority of it is taking place in the same city that seemingly saying that is going to be the primary benefactor, right? But nobody's talking about how we're going to take care of loss of life. Majority of it, to be honest with you, is happening in my district. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But I will tell you this, Mr. President, we got to make sure that we don't lose sight and focus on being in the people's business. We are in the people's business. Now, if they want to continue on to play these games and when I said they, I'm talking about other folk who are involved governmentally. If they want to keep doing that, then that's fine. But I know that we have a focus, and what may be $5 million ask today, I just don't see just like what happened with the World Games. You come and you have a simple ask in the beginning, and there was no real thought given after the fact. And next thing you know, here we got something that's big, but it makes it looks like we don't want to, help. And then for us to help, that's additional dollars. We have gotten federal infrastructure dollars to help us to do things infrastructurally. And we need to do that. We need to do it. I know you're saying that it's not going to have any effect. I've never known for it not, Mr. President. Maybe some people just think that I'm unaware of how that works. As long as you got a camera that's over there clicking as I speak, and as long as they're recording everything that we say, it has it has merit. And I just think that we need to place our focus where it needs to be. And we need to ask the question, if some of you all decide that you want to go forward with, is what is the infrastructure surrounding this project that's going to allow for it to be a guaranteed success? Building a project requires funding, but it gotta be successful in order for it to make sense. Otherwise, you got another Legion Field. And the best way to kill it is if it doesn't make money. And if it doesn't make money, then you're gonna start talking about why you shouldn't fund it. Okay? I just, I'm with it if it seems as though at some point, hey Greg, with AO.com, so you come on right to, somebody called him, he didn't just magically appear. But I'm just telling you, if we gonna, yeah, I know it's very intentional. And I'm intentional for those who are inviting people that be in on this conversation. Because then if we're gonna tell it, we're gonna tell it all. And I'm just telling you, right now we're talking about ambulance service in the county. And yet we're struggling for cities like Fairfield just to get ambulatory service. It's a lot. Yeah, so I thank you, sir, for putting me on game. Because I believe me, I'll give them something to talk about. Because we're going to stop being out of the people's business and then using economic development to be able to couch what our priorities should be at the right time it needs to be. Because I promise you, and I'll say this and be done, there was, I went to a game at Protective, left, and though our car was not too far, we had to ride on the little transportation they had to drop off everyone else. I'm being honest with you, if you all go around, it's very dark in some of these places and very questionable as it relates to safety. And I thought to myself, man, if we do anything, we got to make sure that the people who come here are safe if they park blocks away. It don't take long. I promise you, it doesn't take long for it to get filled up.
And Commissioner Lynn said those parking decks are gonna be rehabilitated, and there will be parking there, and there will be a walkable, vendor-friendly pathway from the existing campus to the extended campus that would possibly include the amphitheater. All of that has been thought through, and the traffic pattern has been researched by the traffic division of the city of Birmingham. We hadn't had anything to do with it. It's not our responsibility to do that. But those things that you brought up have been brought up in numerous board meetings and were addressed. And I believe that they're going to build a new hotel up there, which is not in a purview to this. The only thing we're talking about right now, and this has to occur in sequence. The CVB, if they get on board, and also the BDA is behind this, Greg Kern is very adamant that he wants us to occur and to happen. The city of Birmingham this is an opportunity for a generational change for an entertainment complex to have a concert hall, an arena, an amphitheater, and a stadium. What it will do, and it will allow us to become an A concert tour instead of a C+ concert tour. It will give us the opportunity, and you can disagree, and that's fine. Because what I'm saying is not from my personal knowledge. It's from what I'm being told by Live Nation.
But you got a colleague, Mr. President, that all of us have assets that we bring to the table.
So here we are.
And the only thing I'm gonna tell you, Mr. President, I hear everything that you're saying, but you're talking to a commissioner who's been a victim of crime this year, that I told my good friend Bonnet over there that someone tried to break in on my daughters and I. Birmingham police has yet to show up. I've had 2 other incidents that happened at my home. Still no Birmingham police have shown up. He's gone now. If it were not for the sheriff's department policing that area where I live as a commissioner, I'm telling you, if you came to my home right now, it's lights everywhere because I feared for my life, Mr. President. So some of the things that I hear, if I seem to be sensitive, that's why. Because that's crazy. You dial 911 and you can't even get policing in your community because you told that they're short and we sitting here talking about an amphitheater. That's what I mean when I say about being in the people's business. I'm a commissioner and dial 911. That is crazy. I'll never forget, I did it January 11th and told, so I'm saying it for the record now, since the media is here, they didn't call me in. January 11th, I called shortly after 12 a.m. and someone literally tried to break in on my daughters and I. With the cars outside, which indicates they didn't mind being killed and they didn't mind killing us. And we sitting here talking about other stuff that always we want to couch it as well as economic development. That's fine when you can throw a rock and you don't have to worry about certain things happening where you live, at least not being responded to properly, Mr. President. So I'm being honest with you, I do take exception that it just seems like other folk obviously have a different set of priorities. The fact that you got 120 homicides and nobody's talking about that for real, but we're talking about economic development. Well, you're going to have enough dead folks, well, you don't even have to worry about people coming to the area because they're going to hear about it. And if you think for 1 minute that that doesn't play into these concerts and all that, I'm telling you from firsthand knowledge, they're not coming where they don't feel safe. I said that when I was at the city of Birmingham, I'm saying that as a county commissioner. If you don't do something about people feeling like they're going to be safe, walking to their cars, going to and from a venue, it's going to be sparsely attended. And I'm telling you that. And it doesn't matter what their projections are. I'll be very candid with you. What we don't want to do is to depend on a benefactor, whoever the benefactor is. You talk about Live Nation for now, but we need to talk to some financial experts that are not in that field, but yet they know everything about if you do these kind of deals long term, does it benefit you or does it not? Now, those are the things that we have to consider, Mr. President.
And I think we have to consider all of those that are relevant that you've considered.
But you're talking about it, but nobody else. But nobody's talking to the whole commission.
You're speaking to the same campus, the same area that housed a 55,000 Garth Brooks concert and last Saturday night a 12 or 15,000 seat Jason Aldean concert in the same area, and I have heard nothing that has gone wrong. So I don't think that is a viable.
That's rare, Mr. President.
That's not rare. That happens all the time.
Mr. President, you do not have a Garth Brooks show, Mr.
But
President.
you have Jason Aldean.
Now, listen, even if you have Mr. Aldean, okay, I'm telling you, Mr. President, that you have issues around these different venues, and no one seems to be talking about that. That's what I'm saying is that if a person doesn't feel safe when they come there, you can have all the policing in the world depending on who's coming, but I'm talking about when you're saying on a consistent basis, do you police the area? Be honest with you, Mr. President, outside of in the extreme perimeter of the stadium, I saw no one on the outskirts. Matter of fact, my husband and I and the folk who were riding on this particular vehicle, we stayed in place when they were dropping people off just to make sure they got in their car safe. Because the lighting in the area adjacent to the stadium was so dark. So that's why I'm saying, whatever these conversations are, it would be helpful as a commissioner if I was involved in those conversations as a commissioner, not just a co-chair of economic development, so that you're speaking intelligently about it, Mr. President.
I understand. And I appreciate your input.
But as a big crime, I have a different perspective.
Okay, Joe.
Let me just, the total cost for the CVB to give up this pilot payment for the taxes over a 30-year life of the bond is going to be $27 million. It'll be out of the Convention Bureau of computers. Number two, you said a while ago that it sounded like you said favor of us backstopping the debt.
That's exactly what I said.
I mean, so.
That, I don't want any misunderstanding about that. I had that in a meeting and it appeared on on an agreement, on a funding agreement. And I said that I did not favor any further commitment from the county except the initial outlay. Because we did not receive any of the additional benefits.
And I said that yesterday in our meeting, our return on investment is very minimal.
And I understand that. What we're talking about here is a quality of life and to try to help fulfill. It's our job as a county commission to make sure that the quality of life of our citizens are better than they were.
Mr. President, I just sat here and said I was a victim of crime, and I don't understand if, when you talk about a quality of life for a citizen and you call 911 and you don't even get a response 3 times?
Let me just stick on this point, because this may be decisive of the whole matter. If we're not willing to backstop the debt, as it's presented in the agreement, in the funding agreement, then unless Birmingham agrees to do the whole thing, then we're done.
You again, and I said that was down the step. The first step.
That was the deal.
Yeah. The first step is for the CVB to agree to what they're doing, and there's plenty of work.
If we're not gonna backstop it, and Birmingham says, well, we can't backstop it alone, then there's no even need to keep.
You're you're talking about a $30 million. You're not talking about much. As far as that, you're talking about probably using a private placement on the bonds, on the warrants. So you're not talking about a great deal. And if the city of Birmingham is going to be the primary beneficiary of this, I feel that they should do the backstop.
That's what I need to know.
And
I'll pass that on to the meeting on Monday.
Well, I think we already have.
Probably have.
Well, we are sure having a lot of conversations that the commission is not privy to. But I'm telling you, Mr. President, I'm going to be vocal about this one. I don't want to hear as a Birmingham resident about quality of life. That's crazy to me. I mean, that's, Mr. President, that's almost absurd. I mean, that we start talking about a quality of life over an economic development project, and yet people don't see it in their neighborhoods, and they don't even see it in as simple as a 911 call. Now, like I said, if they showed up at any of you all's homes and tried to break in on you and your family while you're there, you would have a better regard for what I'm saying, Mr. President, because it's crazy. And if you talk to any of those folks over there at Norwood, and I suggest the media, which I'll provide their cell phone number to the both of you, call the neighborhood president over there at Norwood and let them tell you how children getting out of school out of Norwood and they're shooting around in the community at the time the children are getting out of school, okay? So the quality of life issue is not going to sell me. But if you all don't care about what has happened to me and dial 911, the only thing I'm going to tell you is that we better be trying to figure out every time there is a misgiving that comes up or a project that comes up, what our priorities are and if they're lining up with our priorities. And if it makes long-term sense, then you do it. If it doesn't make long-term sense, then you don't. But we still got to stay focused on what our agenda is as it relates to the citizens of Jefferson County.
Most definitely.
Okay, Mr. President.
Appreciate